Hello everybody and welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today it is May the 4th, be with you, 2023. It is Thursday. My name is Kerry Holzman and today, oh man, I've got to tell you, I know you guys have seen a number of mini PC reviews coming from me lately, and that's because this particular category is just taking off and things are moving so quickly. And I didn't realize yesterday, and I don't know if you were able to catch yesterday's show, but yesterday I did a review of the Minisforum UM560 XT, and I did not realize at the time this is, as far as I know, the exclusive video review on this unit. It's not yet available for sale. You can pre-order it. And this unit, the NPB7, the subject of today's video, is a YouTube exclusive. I, as far as I can tell, am the first person to get one of these units. Once again, you cannot buy them just yet. You can pre-order them. I understand you can order them and they'll ship out later this month. And I just want to thank the folks over at Minisforum for giving me this opportunity to provide some different content from everybody else. Let everybody else do their reviews after me. I'm good with it. But every once in a while, it's nice to lead the way, you know? A win for the little guy, figuratively and literally. Now, if you haven't seen yesterday's video, be sure and check out the UM560 XT. This thing, if you're playing games and you don't mind playing, let's say at 1080, and you don't want to spend $1,000 for a gaming rig, you can save a lot of money and still have your gaming. And check out that video from yesterday. Today's video, however, it's all about the NPB7. Now, this is sold as a bare bones kit or with different amounts of RAM and storage with Windows 11 Pro installed. I will say on the UM560 XT, it had Windows 21H2 installed, which I was kind of puzzled. With a brand new unit, you'd think it would have 22H2. Yet on the NPB7, this has Windows 11 22H2 installed, Windows 11 Pro. It doesn't even try to connect to the network. I've never seen it do that before, but during the initial setup, it doesn't pull up the Wi-Fi, it just goes right to putting in your username. I don't know what they did, but hallelujah, because I personally don't want to create a Microsoft account. I opened this up last night. I just received it yesterday, and I checked it out. You know, I ran the CPU, not the CPU, I ran the Crystal Disk Mark benchmarks, and I ran the Windows updates and just wanted to verify everything was in order, and took some of the Microsoft add-on stuff like Spotify and TikTok, just took all those little shortcuts out and pretty much put it all back in the box, left it alone so we can do a really honest, straightforward, genuine, authentic review of this. And I can't help but be really super excited about this. I think this is my new favorite mini PC. This thing blows my mind. And the reason why I'm reviewing so many mini PCs is because they cover the gamut of use case scenario. Whether you want something just really inexpensive to browse the web, check email, maybe a home theater streaming PC, you know, they've got them under $200. If you want something kind of middle of the road, you want to get some work done, they got those for, you know, between $200 and $300. You want to do some light gaming, but you don't want to drop $1,000 on a PC and you don't want to have this giant box, you got those for around $500 and $600. What if you want a full desktop replacement computer? Not necessarily for gaming, but let's say video editing, let's say literally anything but gaming. This right here. This is a desktop replacement in nearly every way, except of course, the CPU is going to be soldered on. And the motherboard and all of that is proprietary. So you don't have as much upgradability, but you have far more portability. And you could not build a desktop piece by piece for what this cost. This is significantly cheaper. And you know, my biggest issue, if I have one criticism from the folks at Minisforum, is the rubber feet that are glued on the bottom that cover up the screws for, you know, a part of the PC you're supposed to be able to get into it. And they don't make that easy. Well, that issue has been addressed in this model, and I'm super excited to show this to you because I am telling you, I am so hyped up for this. This is not an act. I genuinely, this could replace my workstation at Studio A easily. Take up a fraction of the space, it wouldn't use as much power, and in many cases, it would be more powerful. So let me get the close-up camera out, and we're gonna unbox this, and I want you to see what I see, and see if you're as amazed as I am. And again, YouTube exclusive right here. We're the first with it, and that really excites me because that means, you know, I have no influence from any other content creator about what they might have said or done with the unit. My thoughts are guaranteed to be my own thoughts, my own conclusions. Now let me get the overhead camera out, and let's see if we can set this up correctly. We'll bring that over here. Bring this over here. There we go. Something like right about there ought to be good, I think. And then we'll turn the overhead camera on. Yeah, I am amped up. Okay, so let's see if I got the overhead camera hooked up in a good place here. Let's see, which camera is that? That's gonna be called a close-up camera. Oh, way off, Carrie. Okay. Bear with me here for a second as I get this sorted. Okay, so here's your top-down view. The Minisforum Venus series, you'll see here on the side, it's identified as the NPB7, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of SSD Gen 4 storage. All right, so check this out. I put it back in the box more or less the way it came, the way it was. When I took it out and updated it and checked it out last night, I tried to put it all back in the box exactly the way it originally was. So normally I would not keep this on here. And that fits tight. All right, so there's our mini PC. Look at all of the I/O. Look at the USB, USB 4, 2 Ethernet, 2 HDMI. We have, 2 USB 4 there. We've got our power there. We've got a Kensington lock port there, a ventilation. And then on the front of the unit, we've got USB Type-C, 2 USB Type-A, headphone, microphone jack, power button, reset button, and I guess that's probably a dynamic microphone right there. Now, you want to get into this thing, and you know what else is in the box, right? We're going to get into that, but do you see the little fingers? They're pointing to the corners. If you want to get into this, you just push down and lift it up. What? What? You don't even need a screwdriver, and look what's inside. Look what's inside. This is our SSD heatsink that has a little fan on it. Yeah, it's actively cooling the M.2 NVMe drive. Here's our Wi-Fi card, easily accessible to upgrade. And there's our 2 sticks of 8 gig of crucial name brand memory installed. And this is this DDR5? I think it's DDR5. Yeah, DDR5 4800. Come on. How cool is that? And you just put the cover back on and just push it down and it's locked right back in place. Now I could see, you know, if you put stuff on this, you might accidentally pop up a corner, but you know what? I would rather have that than deal with those rubber feet that have to be removed. That is awesome. Furthermore, when we look in the box, what's the other thing I complain about? I complain that sometimes the power cables are too short. Well, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Here's our power adapter. And it's got a longer power cable than what we're accustomed to seeing. And furthermore, oh, and this tickles me, it uses a regular old everyday common power cord that pretty much powers all desktop PCs. almost universally. Like I have hundreds of these. And you can get these at whatever length you want. They're super easy to find, and that solves that problem. Now I will say I'm a little disappointed they're not putting their name brand on the adapters, so I will get my label maker out and I'll put Minisforum NPB7 on here. So hallelujah, they did everything right on this. We've got, of course, an HDMI cable, our standard power cable. We've got our VESA bracket. We've got screws for installing an optional internal 2.5-inch drive in here. And then this will be the cable you'll need to hook up inside of the unit if you want to put the 2.5-inch drive in. This isn't as exciting as it gets. There's still more excitement when you see what the price is on this unit. If we go over to the Minisforum website, which I'm going to do right now, and let me grab the Windows capture, which will be right over here. I'm going to turn off the close-up camera. Why did my window capture not come up? Oh, I didn't turn it on. Silly me. Window capture on. Okay, so here is the Minisforum website, and there's a link to the website in the video description below this video. And if you go to the website, it defaults to showing you the previous model, or rather the current model, the NAB6. I was super interested in the NAB6. And Phil over at Minisforum said, if you're interested in that, wait till you see the NPB7. I was like, oh, really? So if we go over here to this tab where it says Intel Core i7-13700H, that is the NPB7. And if we want to look at what the specifications and prices are, first of all, it's $489 bare bone. So the way I have it with 16 gigs and 512 is $609. So it's up to you. And by the way, there's also 32 gigs with the 512 storage for $50 more than that, right? Is it 50 bucks more? $60 more. And then over here, 32 gigs of RAM with 1 terabyte SSD. And these do come with Windows 11 Pro. The bare bones, you would provide your own RAM, you would provide your own SSD, and you would provide your own operating system. And that's how they can get that price all the way down to $489. That is a bargain for the month. Just price the CPU, folks. Now, if we scroll down here, I don't want this to confuse you the way it confused me. This specification is for the NAB6. We've got to click on the tab over here. And this tells us all about this unit, the Venus Series NPB7 13th Gen, which they exclaim more than powerful. It has the Iris Xe graphics built in to the CPU, DDR5 RAM, PCIe 4.0 solid state drive. It's got, they're advertising a new cooling design, dual Ethernet ports, dual USB 4 ports. This thing, are you sitting down? It has 14 cores and 20 threads and can hit 5 gigahertz. Are you kidding me? Not only that, it supports AV1 encoding. So hello, great for video editing. And if we keep scrolling down here, you can see as we go from one generation of processor to the next, it's an average of about a 10% difference. And that's what you can expect without having to see any reviews. If a new processor comes out and it's the same model, like let's say it's an i7 12700 versus an i7 13700, and the only difference is that one's a year newer, one's one model newer, it's on average 10% faster from model to model. So if we were to compare this to a model from 3 or 4 years ago, it would be 30-40% faster. Gets into a little bit more detail about the PCIe 4.0 and the active cooling that's on it. And shows here how you can open it, that I've already demonstrated, because I think that's really, really cool. And let's keep scrolling. Yeah, there's a close-up of the SSD cooler. Yes, you can run 4 monitors at the same time off this little guy. It's no big deal. It's no sweat. It easily can handle 4 monitors simultaneously. Plus, you've got the dual network interface cards. Look at all the USB ports, USB 4. Now, I don't have anything USB 4, but I guess I'm ready for it. USB 4 can do a total of 40 gigabits per second maximum performance. And of course, it's backwards compatible with USB 3, 2, and 1. On the back, it's a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C. Sorry, this is the front, rather. That's our dynamic microphone right there. USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C right next to that. USB 3.2 Type-A, got 2 of those there. 3.5 millimeter audio jack, our power button, and our clear CMOS button that's recessed. You'd need unfolding a paper clip to do that. Now, on the back of the unit, we've got 2 more USB Type-A's. These are 3.2s. We've got an HDMI port, and below that, another USB 4, that's Type-C. Both of the LAN jacks are 2.5 gigabit Ethernet ports. Back on the other side, pretty symmetrical, HDMI and USB 4 Type-C, and then the input for our voltage. I mean, what more could you possibly want? I shouldn't ask that because you guys can be pretty demanding. I've got to tell you though, honestly, this is a desktop replacement all day long. And you see they're saying orders placed after April 28th will begin shipping in late May. So as far as I know, they haven't started shipping these yet. We're still in early May. I am super excited about that. I just think this thing is amazing, but we need to plug it in and see how it works. Let me go back over to camera 1, which is right over here. Yeah, there's camera 1. And then let's get the overhead camera out of the way. Put that. It's so tight. I have to come around here to move this arm. It's kind of a flaw in its design that if I loosen it there, it wants to fall straight down. So I have to loosen it, move it, and then tighten it again. But that's a different story. All right, let's get this hooked up. I can't wait for you to see this. I love the fact we're using a standard PC power cable on that. Oh, so wonderful. I love the fact to open it, I just tap on there, lid comes off. And then I've got all the goodies right there. Super easy access, no tools required. Upgrade your SSD, upgrade your Wi-Fi, upgrade your RAM. You don't need any tools. Well, I guess you need a small screwdriver to do the SSD and the Wi-Fi, but not the RAM. Okay, let's get this plugged in here. Let's get a keyboard and mouse plugged into it. Put that and any USB port back here. And we'll turn these on. And let's see. Oh, I need to get an HDMI cable plugged into that. That will feed into the capture card. And an Ethernet cable. So we will plug those in. Either HDMI port doesn't matter. Either Ethernet port doesn't matter which one you want to use. And then I'll step back around. And I'm going to turn on the HDMI capture over here on the streaming build, which is right here. Let me turn that one on. And then what I'm going to do is put myself in a corner. Now, I would recommend that you take a look at the time on this video to see how long this thing takes to boot, because you know it's going to be fast. So let me reach around, find that power button, give it a press. And I hear nothing. Did it turn on? No, because I didn't plug power into the jack. Hey, I thought that thing was running awfully quiet. All right, standard PC power cable, which I love that. Now I'll hit the power. Whoops. Power, there it goes. And let's see how long this takes to boot. Once you give it power, yes, you still need to provide power to it. And I can make this video a little bit smaller here so you can see a little better. And here we go. there we are. We're in Windows. I ran the benchmark, Crystal Disk Mark on it last night to see what sort of performance we're going to get out of that 512 gig SSD. And those numbers are right here. Now, are there faster Gen 4 solid state drives? Yes. As long as you want to keep paying more, you can go milliseconds faster if it's that important to you. What they're trying to do, what the folks at Minisforum appear to be trying to do, is giving you the balance of performance to cost. So that means they're not going to give you an overkill amount of storage, and they're not going to give you an overkill level of performance of storage, because by doing that, it's going to increase the price significantly. Just like shopping for a car, if you want the high performance version of the same car, it is significantly more money. I mean significantly. And when you compare what you're getting for what you're spending, you're losing value when you go to high performance. But you still can do that. You can order the bare bones version of this case, of this NPB7, and put up to 64 gigs of RAM in there, DDR5, and you can put, I would imagine a 4 terabyte SSD should be just fine in there if you wanted to do that. Bearing in mind that the Western Digital 850X 4 terabyte NVMe drive at Amazon today is $349, which is about 80% of the cost of this entire system. So that's why they're not just throwing that in there, because then it wouldn't be as attractive financially, cost-wise. So let me pop into the chat. I'm so excited. This thing is so cool. I'll tell you something else I like about it. I like that it's a different color. It's not the same old, same old. I like that it's different. Now, just because something is different doesn't automatically make it better. But I will say, if something is better, but it looks exactly the same on the outside, it doesn't get my juices going. I'm like, okay, well, you know, this is just a reiteration, a reworking of a previous model, and maybe it's got a faster generation processor, maybe it's got faster generation USB, but that's all internal. Everything on the outside looks exactly the same. That doesn't excite me. So you will notice I like things that are different, whether it's that spaceship build or the tube build, whether it's the Xenos G3 case, whether it's that Alzheimer's case I showed on the hot dog build. It's different. I love different. I'm drawn to it. And when it can be different and be better at the same time, and I mean better in every way, well, in a lot of ways, I should say. Not only does this look different than any of the other Minisforum PCs, it uses the standard PC power connector. It doesn't require screws to open it up, and it doesn't require you removing rubber feet that are glued on. Bravo, bravo. Now look, everybody's got different wants and needs. I'm not suggesting that Minisforum should remove the rubber feet or find another way, because there are some people that prefer that. So kudos to Minisforum for making the variety of PCs that can accommodate any individual's particular preferences, right? Having this processor in here that has 20 threads in that little box, holy cow, DDR5, this machine should easily last 10 years, easily. Plus, as I mentioned, when you're buying it with the RAM and storage already installed, you're getting Windows 11 Pro pre-installed on it. And it's pretty much just an OEM version of Windows 11 Pro. Any sort of bloatware, if that's what you guys want to call it, is whatever Microsoft is putting on there. That's not coming from Minisforum. It's not like what other system integrators do when it comes to making deals with antivirus companies and other companies to shove their software down your throat. This is just Microsoft's standard add-on stuff to Windows 11, whether it's educational, Minecraft, whatever that means, or links to ESPN, eBay, Spotify. I usually remove Microsoft OneDrive, and I usually remove or uninstall Microsoft Teams. But again, anybody could easily add that stuff. It's all free. That's about it for things that I remove, and then I go and grab all the updates. And I was pleased to see this had 22H2 on it already, and I was tickled that it didn't even try to attach to the network. When I fired this up for the first time, I don't plug it into the Ethernet, right? I just give it video, give it power, give it keyboard, and then let it do the first install, finishing the install of Windows 11. And it usually, when it doesn't detect a cable plugged in to the internet, Windows 11 usually then says, which of these Wi-Fis do you want to connect to if you've got Wi-Fi built in, as we do here. It did not do that. It literally took me right to creating a local account without me doing anything special. So whatever the people at Minisforum did to configure that, bravo, bravo, I say. Alex wants to know if I'm going to be making an Uncle Carrie's Windows 11 optimizer. There is not one planned. We might be skipping right over Windows 11 and going into a Windows 12. Well, that's just a rumor right now. I don't want to invest too much time or money into Windows 11 until we get closer to the end of Windows 10. The good news is the Windows 10 optimizer does work on Windows 11. It doesn't cause any harm. There are probably some other enhancements that we can do to Windows 11, and probably some enhancements we're changing on Windows 10 that don't exist in Windows 11, like showing all of the icons in the system tray. That doesn't hurt anything by turning that registry setting on the way that I have it on Windows 10, but it's also not going to hurt anything, doesn't cause any damage. So there is no compelling reason to update the Windows 10 optimizer because it already works with Windows 11. And Windows 11 may be a very short-lived operating system, and I'm saying the word maybe. We just don't know if in fact Windows 12 is real. Typically Microsoft releases a new operating system in October. We're too close to October for Windows 12 to be a thing this year. But October of 2024 and certainly October of 2025, when Windows 10 support ends, if there's going to be a Windows 12, it'll likely be in October of 24 or 25 that Microsoft introduces it. If Microsoft does not introduce it, then what that means is people were just rambling on about a Windows 11 update and they're calling it Windows 12. Microsoft won't tell us what they're doing because they don't want the competitors to have an upper hand, and they don't want people to procrastinate buying their latest operating system because something else is coming around the corner. So they want you to buy what they have now, and they will not downplay the value of what they're offering today. They'll tell you, we don't know what you're talking about officially with Windows 12. We don't know what you're talking about. And that's why they do that. That's to protect their shareholder investment, and it's also to keep people, more or less, keep people coming back. That's just business. It's how all businesses are run universally. I've never seen a business that operated any other way that remained in business. So, and that Windows 10 optimizer, that's available at d7xtech.com. It's very inexpensive. You can run it limitlessly on as many PCs as you want. I only ask that you don't give it away to people. I don't mind if you want to run it on all your friends and family's machines. But if they want a copy of it, please tell them to support the channel and buy it. Because if you copy it for them, there's nothing I'm going to do. I'll never know. But if you do that, and enough of you do it, then any sort of investment that's required to develop a future optimizer, the funds won't be there. If it's costing me to sell stuff where I'm losing money on the sale, what would you do? Just stop making it, right? Stop offering it. So, and it's very inexpensive. I made it very affordable with no restrictions. There's no activation key. You can run it any amount of times you want. So I'm just asking you, well, I'm perfectly happy with you running it on as many machines as you want. After it's been run, if the machine's not yours, please remove that program and tell people where they can buy it if they want it. It's very cheap, and the more money this channel can bring in, the more amazing and more often I can bring you content. One is related to the other. All right, thank you for the question. John Rogers says, I'm looking at my mid-sized computer case and I'm wondering why I need it. Yeah, me too. I have a number of business clients that all run the Corsair 200R, and before that we were using the Leon Lee PC99. with the idea being that, hey, you never have to buy the case and power supply again. We can just keep putting new motherboards, RAM, CPU, storage in there, and that'll save you about $100 every upgrade, at least. But then, of course, the cases, they only have USB 2, at least the Lee PC99, still will fit a proper motherboard and everything. It's just we don't have front port USB 3 or Type-C. So you have to get a new case if you want to keep up with that. And the amount of we're saving isn't really that much after all, you know. Once it's all said and done, what's $100? So I think a lot of my clients are going to be moving to these mini PCs, and especially when these mini PCs can outperform the current desktop machines they have now. I bet you this little Minisforum box right here outperforms 90% of the viewers' computers that are watching this video right now today on May the 4th, 2023. In fact, if your computer's more than about a year old, maybe about 2, if you bought a super high-end computer 2 years ago, with the exception of the graphics card, this thing is probably going to spank it. So, and if you see how much money this is, and you go to Newegg or Amazon or PC Part Picker and build a system of equivalent specification, I'd be very curious how much more money that is than just buying this where it's already done for you. Tim Teal joins us, says hello. There's Icarena saying hello. John Rogers and Alex saying hello. Sarge Tech says hello. Steve Mercure says, I bought the optimizer twice as I managed to lose the original download of the installer. Still money well spent. Steve, I appreciate that you paid for it twice. You could have also reached out to the folks at D7X Tech and said, hey, I bought the optimizer. I've lost the download. I've lost the link. This is my name. Hopefully you have a copy of the email receipt, but if not, they could look up your name and then provide you that link. But I appreciate that you've paid for it again. David Rivera wants to know, do you think gaming PCs in the future will be like these mini PCs? Seems like a great device due to its size and portability. Yeah, I don't know, but it's going to be determined by the needs of the user. So when it comes to workstations at office places, yes. When it comes to most home consumers, yes. They don't need that big box. However, laptops still have their place, tablets still have their place. Some people are just fine with nothing more than a smartphone. Other people are just browsing, streaming stuff on their smart TV and don't need it. But there are gamers, and gamers need to be able to spend their money for entertainment. They spend it by the hundreds for new graphics cards, even by the thousands, so they can play games. And to have that ability to spend that amount of money to be able to entertain yourself with higher end graphics and more frames per second, there's always going to be a place for that, because the manufacturers of those specific items make more money per item than they do on the typical stuff people buy. This stuff outsells the gaming stuff by far. The whole gaming industry makes about 2% of the income of the rest of the computer industry. It's a very niche genre, and there's a high profit margin in it. So manufacturers, they love gamers. They want to sell them needless RGB. They want to be able to mark up the price of something by 30, 40%, even higher. Look at what NVIDIA is charging for their graphics cards now. The profit margin that NVIDIA is making on those GPUs, I imagine, is far greater than Asus makes on their motherboards, unless you're buying the high-end motherboards. If you're that enthusiast level, they're making more money from you, and you're spending it. And they love you, and the rest of us love you too, because you're making it cheaper for the rest of us for buying the regular stuff. So there is, that level of enthusiasm is expensive. It's sort of like snow skiing. Have you seen how much skiing equipment costs? Look at how much golf clubs cost. Look how much the fee is to go play golf. That is a very expensive form of entertainment. And don't let me stop you. But as long as those people are willing to spend that kind of money and they have those demands, then there's always going to be a need for a case that can house these giant, heavy graphics cards. But those will become uncommon. Like when you go over somebody's house and they have a computer, you're going to be less likely to see a desktop computer unless that person is a gamer or they have kids who want to play games. Nothing against games, they're just very, very expensive and very time consuming. I enjoy playing games when I have time. I just haven't had time lately because one of the games I enjoy most is helping customers solve problems and earning money. That's my favorite game I've ever played. Trying to keep myself in business is the most addictive game I've ever played. All right, let me just take a look here. In the chat, Dan Nilsson says hello. Roy Starman says hello. There's Thomas Backenstow saying hello. Thomas says, Carrie, you built mine and it's so fast. Yes, yeah, absolutely. There's two of them I sold to you, right, Thomas? And they're little rocket ships and they're fully upgradable and totally modular. But they're also way bigger than this. Pros and cons. Roy Starman mentions with a USB 4 port, you can add an external GPU to this. Good point, Roy Starman. This is true. Alex wants to know what's the best mini PC brand. Well, it's really hard to determine what defines best. That's like asking me, is Tyson branded chicken better than Redbird branded chicken? Which poultry tastes better? At the end of the day, they're both chickens. The determining of what is best can be rated on many different variables that people will place a different value system on from one person to the next. Availability, reliability, support, cost, and what kind of CPU, what kind of graphics card, what kind of RAM, how much, what kind of storage and how much, what operating system, if any. All of these things you will uniquely place in an order of priority of value to you as a person that does not reflect typically many other people. So when it comes to brands, the best I can tell you is stick with a name brand. So the name brands I've been focusing on here on the channel are, of course, Intel with the original mini PC, the Nook. There's also Minisforum. They've just celebrated their 5-year anniversary. Ace Magician and Cam Rui are the same company, and they've celebrated 10 years. B-Link. B-Link is another one that's been around a number of years. As long as you buy your computer, and I strongly recommend, if you have any reservations or concerns, buy your computer from Amazon, because Amazon has a 30-day no-hassle return policy. You can return it for no reason, just because. And Amazon says, no problem. You don't even have to pay the return shipping. They will give you a full refund, so long as you include everything that you purchased. If you leave things out, then expect some money to get taken off for the cost of replacing what you left out, so they can resell the unit. Imagine how upset you would be if you bought a returned unit and it didn't come with the power cable or it didn't come with the power brick. So have courtesy for the next person and you'll get a full refund. But with regards to the brands, there's a lot of no-name brands out there like BMax, Geekom. We did a Geekom review and it was really, really good. We did the IT11 Air, which is almost identical to the Intel Nook 11, but $100 cheaper. What kind of support are you going to get? Don't know. I really don't know. But I can tell you that there's a great value to be had here. And I would imagine that if the unit works without any problems out of the box, it's likely going to work for many, many years. Typically, if somebody has a problem with their mini PC, it's because it was mishandled in shipping. Maybe your delivery driver drop-kicked it to your front door. There's not much a manufacturer can do about that. But at least when you buy from Amazon, you have peace of mind, knowing you have 30 days to return it for any reason and at no cost. So then it really doesn't matter who the manufacturer is when you look at it that way. What's the Netflix tool? Oh, it's not a tool. Netflix is an app that Microsoft includes in Windows 11 to get you to sign up for Netflix to watch movies. You never heard of Netflix before? Eric Lopez said, I'm using a Dell Inspiron 2330, which is an i3-2120. That's a second generation processor from 2013. Wow, that is old. That's really old. Mark Gaines says, Carrie, check your email. Well, absolutely, Mark. I will check my email right now. Let's see. Let me see. Oh, I missed a couple of things here. Mark Gaines sends a $25 Amazon gift card. Yeah, that's so awesome. Thank you, Mark. And $10 comes in from David Coleman. He says, hey, Carrie, Captain Blinsky here. I am all excited, too. Here's a tenner for the channel. Thank you, Captain Blinsky. Thank you, Mark Gaines. You guys rock. Thank you for helping make these channels possible, these videos on this channel possible. Mitch Morrison just texted me and said, May the 4th be with you. Back at you, my friend. I guess he's taking a motorcycle ride today. It's cooled down a little bit. We're in the mid-70s today. And yeah, have a safe motorcycle ride, Uncle Mitch. Lawn Dog says, here's a mini PC that's 25% more powerful than my full-size ATX desktop computer, which I can do absolutely everything on, but I cannot compete with this mini form factor. Yeah. David Rivera says, Carrie, I just got the optimizer. I like to support this great channel. Awesome, David. And you know what? The optimizer, you just run it, hit apply. Don't run it from a flash drive. Copy the file to the desktop, run it from the desktop. I don't know why it sometimes works a little wonky off of the flash drive. Keep it on your flash drive, but anytime you want to use it, just copy it over and run it locally on the local storage drive. And then you can remove it or you can leave it on, whatever. But thank you for supporting the channel. Sean Gallagher said, I've bought so many Samsung NVMe and 2.5-inch drives that I sent an email to Samsung telling them how many I bought. And they sent me a free Samsung 990 Pro 2 terabyte for free. Wow. Everybody's going to start sending emails. That's awesome. Oh, he's asking about the Netflix tool, not Netflix. I see. So some people have problems networking Windows on a peer-to-peer network. There's a lot of settings that are disabled by default to keep your computer safe online. And so if you want to share files in printers, then you have to adjust a lot of different settings within Windows and verify certain services are running and the workgroup names and on and on and on. And so all the Netflix tool does is it adjusts all those settings so that you can share your printers and files and resolve browsing issues and common Windows networking issues. That's all that is. Sorry, I thought you were asking about a Netflix tool. I was saying, what's he talking about? So thank you, David. Thank you for clarifying that for me. Bryce Hosking jumping in the chat says hello, as does Flip or Flop and Piter VZ. Bruce Lucas says that thing runs circles around my desktop. Joshua C. says, happy Friday Eve. That's optimistic. Good to see all these live streams this week. Yeah, well, I'm just trying to get myself caught up, you know. There's so much work here to do as usual. And in this one, this really should have been a Friday review because this is a Friday caliber. You know, I tried to make the Friday show the big show, but I just couldn't wait. I had to do this today. I just think I am so impressed for all of those reasons I've already talked about. And of course, I can use it to stream. I mean, I've already shown that yesterday. Just plug in a USB capture card and I got myself a streaming computer. Charles says, keep them coming, Carrie. They're all very interesting. Well, thanks, Charles. Appreciate you. We can run, let me see, let me grab my utilities flash drive and let's copy over, let's see. We'll copy over the Cinebench test. Remember how that ran yesterday on the Venus Series UM690 XT? Let's see how it compares to this, because this thing is a monster. Let's find out what happens. This is all live, unscripted. I've never done this before. I don't know what's going to happen, but I expect the results are going to be impressive. So let's go back over to the desktop. And let's see, I have to go full screen on my side of things. There we go. And we want, we'll close that. Close. I want to grab PC testing software, and I want Cinebench R23. We will drag that out. You can download Cinebench R23 and run this on your computer if you're curious how your computer compares to this one. Accept this license agreement. And we'll start this test right up here. And so while that runs, I am going to, well, that's, look at how fast that's rendering. I'm going to put myself in the corner here. So bear with me for a second as I move my video right up here. And then we'll keep an eye on what's going on with this. Is Buster in today? You know, I haven't seen Buster in a couple days. Hopefully he'll be watching this video a bit later. It's a pretty big time difference between us and Scotland. But Buster, when you're watching, I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. Just want to say hi, we're thinking about you. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this mini PC or others? I'll be happy to do my best to provide an answer. Eileen Novak says hello. Welcome in, Eileen. There's our friend Luke Greenia joining us. Randy Reed says hello. Sam Mack says hello. Jason H88 saying hello. Eric Lopez. Greg M. All saying hello. There's Gil Garcia. Elko Stoffels says hello. Dan Nilsson, Paul McIntosh, John Rogers, David Moore, Glenn's Music, Abdul Azim Patel jumping in, says hello. There's our friend Mats Olaf, who joins us all the way from Sweden. George Z says hello. Michael Mancini, Johnny Weld, and Robert Chakowski all saying hello. Hi, everybody. Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Neek. All right. Ian McGregor says hello. Hello, Ian. Adib Ali says, what is the difference between the B and Z series chipsets? Which is better for business use, or does it depend on the type of CPU? Yes, there is more to just B and Z. What typically varies between B and Z are the number of USB ports, the number of M.2 slots, the number of SATA ports, and whether or not you can overclock the system. So Z is like your enthusiast level. It's going to give you a bunch of I/O, input-output. You're going to have your most amount of M.2. You're going to have your most amount of USB. And you will have the ability to overclock a processor. On the other hand, if you want to save about $100, you can get a non-Z board, such as the B board. And the B board will have fewer USB ports, fewer M.2 slots. Or the M.2 slots may be one that runs at 4 speed and one that runs at 2 speed, at half the speed. It depends, it varies via which specific chipset we're talking about. But in general, that's what you can expect. Cost you less, you also get less. But if it's something you're not using anyway, is it really less? Bruce Lucas says, yeah, my computer will pass on R23. It's not going to run it. I tried to use it last night, he says, and spent most of the time waiting on the hard disk drive. I plan to grab an Inland 512 gig at Micro Center. Yeah, that'll make a big difference. Charlie Beamer says, wow, that's rendering much faster than the unit you reviewed yesterday. Well, this is 20 cores. Well, this is 20 threads, right? Yesterday's unit is also a couple $100 less. Yesterday's unit is an AMD Ryzen 5 5600H. They both have 16 gigs of RAM, but this is DDR4, I think, isn't it? On the Ryzen 5. So, again, you're going to spend less, and it ran fine. It just wasn't running like this. But this does cost more, and this is a more powerful processor. So there's no voodoo involved in this. It's just, it's like car racing. How fast do you want to go? How much money do you have to spend? But the good news is, this is cheaper than if you were to build it yourself. To build a desktop to the equivalent performance that matches the solid state drive, the RAM, the DDR5 4800, the power supply, the Windows 11 Pro, the case, all of the I/O, the 2 network ports. There's no way you're building that for $600. It's not happening. Well, let me rephrase. The $600 price is bare bones, so you still have to put a solid state drive and RAM in it. But don't take my word for it. Go to PC Part Picker, put together an equivalent system, and tell me what price you get. Not to mention, you've got to do all the work and wait for all the parts to arrive. This is already built and ready for you. Poorly Boy said, yesterday's Mini looked good, but this one blows it out of the water. Well, that's why, so some people are very simple-minded. I'm going to call them simple-minded, where they go, all you're doing is reviewing Mini PCs. Okay, you're not paying attention if that's what you think. These Mini PCs are so different from one another in what they can accomplish and how much they cost and how they're equipped and what's possible with them, that, well, a couple of them may be similar. There's some very massive differences that justify the time spent to really look at the differences between them. Because if all you're looking at is this case it's in, if you're judging the book by its cover, so therefore, why do we need to have so many books? They're all different. Some books are biographies, and some books are educational, and some books are historical, and some books are entertaining, and so, and on and on and on and on and on. Some books are for children, some books are for adult. Some books are thicker. So I don't want to review items that are so similar that every video is like the same. If you're seeing me review a Mini PC, it's because that Mini PC is offering something very different from any other Mini PC I reviewed. With a few exceptions. There have been a few where, say take for example the really low-end ones that are under $200. Anytime I can showcase a brand new computer that comes with Windows 11 for under $200, I want to bring it to your attention because people watch this channel from all over the world. And one brand may not be available to people in certain countries, but another brand might be. Furthermore, one brand may give you a little extra something that's you find value in for the same cost. So when it comes to those really low-end budget machines, I try to cover as many of those as I can because I know, statistically speaking, I'm going to be responsible for selling more of those. People are more likely going to drop $150, $200 on a machine more often than dropping, say, $600, $700, $800 on a machine. However, those $150, $200 machines, they're going to be obsolete within 3 or 4 years. This machine at twice, 3 times the cost has 3 times the lifespan out of it. So it's less hassle of having to move your data over and do that whole transfer of everything, migrating everything over. And of course, I'm talking statistically. There's always exceptions. Things can fail. No matter what you do, things can fail. Power spike can hit your house and fry the board. Obviously, it helps if you're plugged into a surge protector, but even in some cases, a surge protector won't protect you. But I don't see any reason why a machine like this wouldn't be useful for the next 10 years. And not unless there's some drastic change in the operating system, I think this is probably going to be able to handle it. In fact, I would encourage you that if we're all still around in 10 years, ask me how that machine's doing, because I bet you I'll still have it and I'll still be using it. Think about it. It may seem like, hey, $600, but the longer you use it, the cheaper it gets. The cheaper, the $150, $200 computers, those are fine for now. It's not that they're less reliable, it's that they're going to start to feel so slow in 3 or 4 years, you probably will want to replace it because it's going to you're going to get sick of waiting. That's what's going to happen. You're like, this thing takes forever. That's what happens with the cheap computers. That will eventually happen with this one, but much, much later down the road. So you can pay a little bit more now, so you don't have to pay statistically to replace it that anytime soon. Lawn Dog says, it's a great point about choosing your own parts to create this particular type of mini PC. At this price, all you have to do is choose your NVMe drive of your choice and install it. Well, and the RAM, right? If you get the bare bones, you got to buy the RAM too. But you can pick what size module, what speed, and it's super easy. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to install RAM in an NVMe drive and install Windows. And you can get the Windows operating system legitimately, very inexpensively, from VIP CDK Deals, who's the only, he's one of few regular sponsors on this channel. And it saves you guys a ton of money. And they are legit keys. They're guaranteed, absolutely guaranteed it's going to activate. You don't have to call Microsoft. It's going to activate online, just like a retail key, no differently. And the only difference is you only have 30 days of support. So if you have any problems after 30 days, well, welcome to the world. The same is true if you bought a TV at Best Buy. You buy a big screen TV, you put it in the garage, and you wait 45 days before you open it, and then you open it 45 days after you bought it, only to discover there's a big crack in the screen. Try taking it back to Best Buy and see what they say. There are a few retailers that would take it back, Costco, but then you're paying $120 a year or something for membership for that. So you're still paying for it. If you want inexpensive, you're going to trade that off for less in the way of ongoing support. Typically, 30 days is a normal support range. And I can tell you that when you buy a Windows license, it stays licensed to the hardware regardless. When you buy an Office license, you may have to buy another license every time you need to reinstall Office. And the way you can avoid that is simply by imaging your computer using a program like Acronis. Once you've got all your software installed and activated, image it to an external drive. And then if you ever need to format and reinstall, which nobody should be doing in the 2020s, but if you're still old school and you want to still do things the old-fashioned way, the painful, time-consuming way, well then do it smarter, and restore from your image backup, and it'll put everything back the way it was. It literally take you back in time data-wise and restore everything, the temp files, the wallpaper, the icon locations, the activations, as long as it's on the same motherboard. Now, if you restore that image to another motherboard, that's piracy. That's how it's seen, and you'll have to buy new licenses. The good news is these licenses are about 90% cheaper than a retail license for Microsoft. So you could buy them over 10 times and still save money. But they are guaranteed to work, absolutely guaranteed. And There's no reason to pirate stuff anymore, not operating systems or Office. It's so affordable. And why risk getting a virus, and why risk your activation breaking with pirated copies? If you're going to do that, just go download a free copy of OpenOffice or LibreOffice, or just use Google's applications. You don't even need Microsoft Office if that's your justification for piracy. Just don't use Microsoft, use another product. And as for Windows, like I said, it will stay tied to the motherboard. So unless you change your motherboard, you shouldn't ever need to enter that activation code ever again. Even on a wipe and reinstall, the Windows Update Server will recognize your hardware, the serial number of your motherboard, and it'll reactivate your Windows for you automatically for the life of the machine. Unless you've used that product code on another machine and activated. The last machine it's activated on is the one it stays tied to. Unless, see how there's all these caveats, they do sell licenses, like VIP CDK Deals sells a 2PC license, meaning you use the same exact license for Windows on 2 entirely different computers. And it'll save you a couple bucks. It's a little cheaper than buying 2 licenses that are completely different. You buy 1 license that can be activated twice. It's not a big savings, but every penny counts. Roy Starman with a $10 super chat says, does anyone know of making the external GPU USB 4.0 interface gizmo? You'd buy the enclosure. You just shop on Amazon or Newegg or whatever for a GPU enclosure. Mats Olof contributes 100 Swedish krona. He says, this was interesting. Oh, our test finished, didn't it? Let me go full screen over here so I can see. These are our numbers. Let's go ahead and start the second test, and we'll let that one run. Okay. Thank you, Mats Olof. And thank you again to Roy Starman. You guys rock. Do keep in mind that everything you see on my channel, whether it's this copper keyboard, whether it's a tool or Lazy Susan or the camera stands, all of that stuff I buy from Amazon, and I have a little Amazon store. You can visit that by going to amazon.com/shop/Kerry Holzman, and you'll see there's one of my stores is everything you see, or everything you see in my videos. There's over 130 items in there, from the flash drives to the keyboards to the cabling to the cameras to the microphones, everything. So if you're first thing, if you see something, if you see me using something and I'm not talking about it and you want to know more about it, hit my Amazon store. The link for it is in the video notes of all of my videos, including this one. At the very top of the video notes will be a link to whatever I'm talking about. That'll be the first link you're going to see. So today, we're talking about the Minisforum NPB7, and the very first link you see takes you to the Minisforum page. It will not take you to Amazon because these are not available for sale yet. So Amazon doesn't have them available to offer you to buy. If you want to buy one now, you have to buy it direct from Minisforum. Hence, that's why those links are there. Further in the video notes, you can follow me on Facebook. Well, you can friend me on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. You can also, what else do I have links for? You can get a discount on RoboForm, a password managing software. That's all year round. You can get a discount on Acronis. I have to verify if I just worked out with Acronis to offer a full-time discount all year instead of just the once a year offers or twice a year offers we've been doing. This will be not as aggressive of an offer, but it'll always be there. And then, of course, my Amazon store. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, and links to the Windows 10 Optimizer and the Netfix tool. Yeah. Steve McCure says, this little mini PC smokes mine. Glenn's Music said, maybe it's just me, but that first link doesn't work. Oh, I could have typoed it. That happens. Let me take a quick look, and let me pull up this video so I can pull up the video notes. I try to double check it. Sometimes the phone rings or I get distracted and it doesn't get finished. Let's see, here's the first link. No, first link works fine. Yeah, I just ran it just now. Let me try the second link. Second link works. I don't know, anybody else wants to test it? You can let me know your results. Adiba Lee wants to know, have you still got your ASUS router? I have a TP-Link Archer C8, however, I'm looking to upgrade as I need one with better range. I've been told ASUS are one of the best in the business. I do like ASUS. I would agree they're one of the best, but they're not the only one. The router I'm using right now is a Netgear Nighthawk RAX12. I didn't find any value going to 6E from TP-Link, ASUS, or Netgear. And I do like that with the ASUS, many of the ASUS routers, you can put them into a mesh mode. None of the Netgear routers allow that unless it's a mesh router. So that's a downside of Netgear. But yes, I would say TP-Link if you're looking for a good budget router without a lot of bells and whistles. ASUS if money's no object and you want a really good router. Or Netgear if you don't mind the fact that it doesn't have a mesh option unless you buy the mesh router. I've been using Netgear primarily. I've got an RAX12 here in its Studio A. It's a 700R or something. But in the back room here, I've got 4 ASUS routers, and I will not hesitate to use them if I need them. Now, lots to choose from there. Just saying you want to buy an ASUS router, you still have a lot to choose from. Lawn Dog said, I give thumbs up on my purchase of the rechargeable air duster you use. It's great for cleaning computers and keyboards and also for cleaning refrigerator coils. It's got lots of air power. Yeah, it is surprisingly powerful, the cordless air duster here, and you're not spitting out harmful chemical into the atmosphere, and it doesn't get cold as you use it and the pressure starts to go down. And if you tilt it sideways, a chemical doesn't come out that stains and can leave burns on your skin. Now, this thing is fantastic for all those reasons and more. With the lithium-ion battery, it stays charged. Like, I don't remember the last time I charged it. It's fully charged and ready for me anytime I want it. And to charge it, it's just plugged into a USB port of any computer, and the little orange light will come on, and when it's charged, I think the light turns green or it goes off, and then you can sit it on a shelf for 2 months, and when you need it, it'll still have a charge on it. It's gotta love lithium technology. Ism wants to know, is the Mini PC making loud noise while running SODIMM? No, I can barely hear the fan. And of course my air conditioner is turned on, so if you're hearing that weird sound in the background, that is louder than any noise this is making. So this is relatively quiet, especially while it's working like that. Alco says he's got an Cinebench R23 with 33,406 points on a Ryzen 9 7950X, an ASUS Crosshair X670E Hero. He's got G.Skill DDR5 6000 RAM on an ROG Strix 3090 24 gig over OC version graphics card. So here's the question, Elko. This is $600. How much is your computer? Joshua says, I need the link for that blower. Once again, anything you see on my channel, you'll just go to amazon.com/shop/Kerry Holzman. Here, let me show you. Let's do it live. Let me open up a new tab and let me bring up my window capture. So if you don't want to scroll through the video description and click on the link and you'd rather type it in by hand, let me show you how that's done. We're just going to go up here and we're going to type amazon.com/shop/Kerry Holzman. And bingo. Now you'll see these are what's on sale. I always update this on nearly every day. And these are items that I think are a really good price right now. Well, that's not a good price anymore. I haven't checked it, but there's some really good deals here for a number of different items. And be sure and check this daily for really good deals. And then, going back, one of the other shops is equipment and tools that I use. Now this is the one that's got over 100 items in it. And on this, you can see everything from cables and portable monitors to surge protectors, the sound stuff. And as we scroll through here, there's a wind cool duster. I think I've got another one in here too. There's a number of them that looks like all they're doing is putting their name on it, and they're otherwise exactly identical. I think there's the router I'm using right there. Let's keep scrolling down. This is the close-up camera, not the one that I just used, but the one Camera Girl uses. Let's keep scrolling. I think there's another duster. Yeah, so this is the one I have, and I think the reason I've added two is that this one was sold out, and people were like, hey, is there another one? But this is the one I have, the Cooney. $53.99, there's a $10 coupon that makes that $43.99. Free delivery. How much was the other one? Yeah, apart from the name that's put on it, they're basically the same. $59.99, 20%. So 10% is $6, let's say. Double that would be $12. $12 minus 60 would make it $48. Free shipping. Yeah, they're basically the same unit. It's just the name of it's changed. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. All right, how are we doing here? Did this test finish? Still running. Positive Gene said, the Netgear RAX 120 wireless router didn't work for me. I tried it with 2 different units, and they had the same rebooting issue when downloading things, or I guess more heavy usage, constant reboots. I don't know, did you buy those returned, or did you buy those new? I found my RAX 120 to be far superior to meet my needs than the offerings from both the RAX 500, the replacement, that's Wi-Fi 6E, the ASUS Wi-Fi 6E, and the TP-Link Wi-Fi 6E. All those routers went back. They were a complete waste of money when my RAX 120 did everything they did for a fraction of the cost. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe you got some bad luck, or maybe you were buying returned units, and maybe that's the reason they were returned. But thankfully, if you got it from Amazon, they have that super easy return policy, so it didn't cost you anything to send them back. And yeah, if I was in your shoes and I had that example, I likely would not use the RAX 120 either. But it certainly doesn't align with my experience. My sister also had to replace a router, and she got one of those returned RAX 120s. No problem, it's been in place ever since. But when you are buying the returned items, you never know why it was returned. In most cases, I think people don't know what they're doing. But in some cases, there could be intermittent issues that appear. And that's why when I'm buying used items from Amazon, I always make sure it's coming from Amazon warehouse, so I have that peace of mind that I can return it. Otherwise, if I don't want to mess around, I'll buy it new. I don't know if you bought yours new or used, but it would seem unlikely a new one would do that, let alone 2 new ones. But definitely, if they were new and they both exhibited the same behavior, I don't know. That's a little too coincidental. I'd start wondering what kind of power issues you could have at the house. That's to have 2 units fail in the same way, and the only common denominator is that they're put in the same location and plugged into the same wall outlet. I don't know, something suspicious about that. But if that's the reason to not use Netgear, totally get it. Try something from ASUS instead. See what works for you. I'm always interested to hear what real users' experiences are. That matters more to me than what a reviewer thinks. So I appreciate that you share that story with me. Poorly Boy says, Carrie, can I buy from your Amazon shop in the UK? Unfortunately, no, I don't have an affiliate link in the UK. But thank you for asking. I don't know what the numbers are, but on the left side of the screen, it's showing orange for our test run, putting us all the way at the top. I wonder if it's going to stay there when it's done. Are we clearing out all of the default examples that R23 gives us? That would be impressive. Long Dog says, Carrie, I just purchased the Cooney Air Duster, and if my endorsement matters, I would endorse this product. It really does seem to hold its charge. Oh, he's purchased it previously. It really does seem to hold a charge, even when not in use, and that is unusual. Well, it's unusual for us older folks who are accustomed to nickel hydride rechargeable batteries, nickel metal hydride. These lithium-ion batteries they use today, whether it's a smartphone or they have these little portable car jump starters, you can jump start your car with the little box this big. You charge it through the USB port, or you could plug it into the wall and charge that battery, throw this little thing in your car, and if one day your battery dies and your car won't start, you just plug this little tiny lithium-ion battery pack onto it, and it can charge your car like 3-4 dozen times on one charge. It's mind-blowing. And the fact that you can just keep it in the car for months, and it still should have enough of a charge, even being ignored for months in the car, that it will still hold the charge on that battery to keep jump-starting your car multiple times. I try to make it a habit about every 4 months, every 4 to 6 months, take it out of the car, plug it in, charge it up. Because when I need it, I need it. It also works to charge up your smartphone. It can work as a flashlight. It's just amazing what battery technology is doing today. Elko says you can hover the mouse over the orange bar and see its interim score. Oh, well, I think it's already finished. Looks pretty impressive to me, and my air conditioner just shut off, so I don't have to shout over the AC. Patrick says he got his car jump starter today. Yeah, those things are amazing, absolutely amazing. SargeTech said that AC1200 Asus router you recommended as a returned item. Yeah, those things were what, $20? He says it's working flawlessly. I couldn't be more pleased and save some coin. Thanks again. Awesome, I'm glad that helped you. Adib Ali says he has the Archer C8 AC1750. That's a good router. It's a bit old, but you know, are you looking to upgrade for any particular reason? And Patrick Rousseau said he used Uncle Carrie's Amazon shop link to make the purchase of his jump starter. Well, thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate that. You know, when you use my Amazon link, I can't see who's purchasing or where you're purchasing from. All I get is what was sold using my link, so it can calculate what commission I made off the total amount of sales for that day. And then they allow for 30 days for customers to return things, so they don't pay me for 60 days. So essentially, you have 30 days of sales where you've earned this much commission potentially, but then you have to wait 30 days additional for any returns to be subtracted from that. And then, so after 60 days, you get a check cut for what you earned 60 days prior for that month. Yeah, and that's why they do it that way. Andy Kane's popping into the chat, says hello. Elko says, I'm holding out on upgrading my home network until the end of the year. My ISP is going to upgrade the neighborhood to fiber optic. I wish my ISP would. Let me get out of full screen mode there, and let's go back to, let's see, I'll close that tab, and I'll close that tab, and I'll close that tab. Boy, I had a lot of tabs open. We'll close that one. Let's take a look at what hardware is in the device manager on this. So now that we have our final Cinebench numbers, I can close this. We'll go to the Start menu, right click and go to Device Manager. And we can see that we have Intel Iris Xe graphics built into the CPU. As for network adapters, we have Bluetooth, we have an Intel i225V and another Intel i225V, 2.5 gig LAN. And then we have the RZ, I can't read that. That's a Wi-Fi 6E. So this has Wi-Fi 6E, which is fantastic. And as for our USB ports, look at all that. If we go to the system properties, I right click on this PC, go to properties, you'll see here that it shows this is the 13th gen. This is a 13700H CPU, 16 gigs of RAM, and 0.2 of that is used by the video card, the onboard GPU. Of course, we've got Windows 11 Pro 22H2, and it is activated. Just to verify that, I can type in the word activate. See if Windows is activated and active. Yep. And that's just how it was shipped, and that's how you could expect yours to arrive unless you order a bare bones unit. Crystal disk. Do I have crystal disk info? Does it identify who makes the solid state drive? Let's take a look and see. I suspect it's going to be Micron. Oh, it's Kingston. All right, so Kingston's making the solid state drive. And the RAM is Crucial. What else can we look up? What else do you want to know? Let me go back full screen on camera one. Charlie wants to know what temperature is the Mini running at. Well, let's switch back over to, the fan isn't loud at all. So my first indication of being concerned about temp would be the sound of the fan. So given the fan is so quiet, I know the temperature is not hot. But what exactly is it? Let's go take a look. Hey, there's our good friend Madi Yoel. Hey, Madi, haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for the $10 super chat. All right, let me go over to temp. I don't have the temperature software, so let me grab my utilities. Flash drive is still plugged in. That's convenient. PC testing. Let's drag that out. Oops. Drag that out. Double click. 64-bit edition. Huh, surprised it's doing that. Guess it needs that to work. Oh, I've copied the wrong thing over. Hold on, I gotta fix that. Let me go back over here. Thought that was weird. The mouse is clicking kind of weird, so that's why I'm having difficulties over here. Let's try that one more time. 64-bit. Yes. We'll do sensors only. There's our temps. Looks good to me. What do you think? John wants to know, what were the temps when Cinebench was running? Well, we could do that again. Let's go back over. And let's see. Let me go back over to full screen over here so I can see. And Cinebench R23, 64. Oh, it's just regular. And we'll run that. There you go. Kind of curious if where it's showing the clock speed. Starting to hear the fan start to get a little bit louder. Oh, fan is quieting down now. So far, we've hit a max of 82 degrees Celsius, but currently at 68 degrees Celsius. Thomas Bagenstow says, my computer is definitely faster because you built me an incredible machine. And of course, it cost quite a bit more cash, but well worth it. Okay. I'm glad you love the computer I built for you. I enjoyed building it, and it is a very good machine. I agree. So while we're waiting for these tests, does anybody have any other questions that I can answer? This will be the time to ask. Kevin Smith wants to know, would you recommend the Minisforum Mini PCs to your business clients? Yes, I would. Absolutely. Carrie, how often should you upgrade your router? About every 5 years would be my recommendation. About the same as how often you should upgrade your PC. Other questions? John wants to know, is it throttling? Can you move to the CPU and not the memory timings? I was just looking for that. Where is the CPU listed on this? Remember, I'm looking at it from quite a distance. It's like 10 feet away from me, so I'm having a very hard time reading what these options are here. The CPU is going to ramp up and ramp down, not just because it's hot, but based on what the workload is that's being thrown at it, right? It depends if it's going to assign it to the efficiency cores or the performance cores, depending on what type of workload. So when a CPU is not running at 5 gigahertz, that's meant to be a turbo speed. It's not meant to maintain that indefinitely. And because most code, when thrown at the CPU, is got a number of tasks it wants the CPU to do. And depending on what that task is, the intelligence of the architecture defines whether or not it goes to the efficiency core or the performance cores, and if so, at what rate, at what frequency. On top of that, if you were to exceed about, I don't know, 95 or 100 degrees Celsius, then you can expect a throttle. But I'm not seeing any heat-related throttling happening here. Tech wants to know, do you prefer Minisforum or B-Link when it comes to mini PCs? I do not have a preference you're going to find I'm not an absolutist, and I think being an absolutist is a foolish way to live through life. There is no such thing that I can think of where one thing is universally better than all other things. So depending on price, depending on need of the customer, depending on a number of variables unique to whatever that PC is going to be doing, in some cases I will prefer the Minisforum, and in other cases I will prefer the B-Link, and yet in other cases perhaps even the Ace Magician and Cam Rui. There's no way I would disrespect my customers and not consider the nuances of the needs of the individual and just foolishly say one brand is far superior, because that's mindless and it's not true. Every brand has strengths and weaknesses, whether it's pricing, availability, whether it's DDR5, DDR4, what built-in graphics it's got, what kind of storage it has, how much maximum storage it can have. Depends on, some customers don't care about some of that stuff. Some customers do care about some of that stuff. So based on the needs of the customer and the budget and the availability, that would determine which unit I would recommend. Any other questions? Thomas wants to know, when you throttle, can you explain? Yes, if the CPU hits a certain temperature, what it'll do is start shutting down the cores in order to cool the chip off. Back in the day, Cadillac introduced their North Star engine, and the idea was that you were driving down the freeway at a certain speed that it would start to shut down cylinders to save gas. So then you're only running, let's say you're providing fuel to 4, 5, or 6 of the cylinders instead of all 8, because you're just driving at one speed on the freeway. You're not going up or down an incline, and so it saves gas. That turned out to not work out so well in reality. However, that was the idea behind it. With thermal throttling, what we're doing is we're preventing the CPU from overheating and killing itself. So what it'll do when it reaches, each core will have its own temperature. All the cores don't run the same temperature. And if a core gets too close to burning out, there's a built-in protection. We call that a thermal junction or thermal throttling, where it'll shut that core down in order to give that core time to cool off while still utilizing all the other cores. So when you see that the maximum frequency on this chip is 4,000 something, it's nearly 5 gigahertz, it doesn't run at 5 gigahertz at all times. There is no CPU that I'm aware of that would run at 5 gigahertz at all time unless you're just sticking the finger out to Mother Nature and saying, screw the ecology, who cares about the environment? I want power, and I want to just consume as much of it as possible, sort of like an old muscle car. Just dump that fuel in, throw all those carbons out the back, and put some massive cooler on there that's going to be loud and annoying so you can maintain that high performance. Instead, it's tackling it in a much more intelligent way, where when you need the performance during certain operational tasks required of the CPU, then the CPU automatically boosts up to take care of those tasks and then results back down. No differently than perhaps when you're trying to pass somebody in your car and you put your foot all the way down, it drops a gear or two and everything revs up really super high so you can accelerate quickly to make a maneuver, a quick maneuver. It's very much the same way. If you drove your car like that all the time, you'd probably go through a tank of gas very, very quickly, and it would be very hard on the engine, and your lifespan of that car before you blew the engine up would probably be significantly less as a result of treating it that way. So you don't always want to see that maximum speed at all times, because then you're going to have the problem of the cooling noise. And when you add heat, you add wear. And over time, with enough wear, you will have failure. So the idea is that they give it to you when you need it. This is also more environmentally friendly, and it's just a smarter, more efficient way to work than just dumping power into it, whether it needs it or not. It's sort of like, you know, when somebody's sitting at a light on their motorcycle and they're just revving the engine, they're just burning gas for no reason, maybe because they like the noise. Most people don't like the noise out of a computer. So, you know, revving it up for no purpose doesn't make any sense. So it's basically, it's a chip that was originally developed for laptops to extend battery life. You can imagine if your chip was a laptop chip, as this is, and it ran at 5 gigahertz at all times, not only would your laptop fans be constantly running at high speed, your battery drain would be, it would be almost useless to have a portable machine that did that. So it's running exactly the way it's supposed to be running. It's doing exactly what you want it to do. Now, if we look, like we're not doing anything right now, and you can see our CPU speed has gone down quite a bit because we're more or less just idling. And the minute I tell it to work, like we'll start this other test over here. We'll do the second test. Whoops, didn't want to do that. Bring that one up. You'll see as the test becomes more demanding that the CPU frequency goes up, which then generates more heat, which then the fan responds to by spinning faster. Now, back when I first started fixing computers back in the early 1990s, fans had one speed, on, or off. I guess that's two speeds. And CPUs also had one speed. Actually, they had two speeds. They did have a turbo speed where you pushed a button. Like I had a 286-12, and if you hit the turbo button, it ran at 286 at 16. 16, yeah. This one's running at 4,500. That's a big difference from 16. But yeah, so the CPUs could overheat and literally crack in half because they get super, super hot. Even those 286s, when they ran at 16, you had to have a cooler on there. You can only imagine what sort of heat these things can generate, how much noise that's going to create to keep them cool, and why it makes so much sense to not just have it be full on all the time. We've evolved past that. And it gives you a longer life of your electronics. It gives you a cheaper electric bill, and you don't have as much fan noise except when the machine's really working. I mean, if you want to talk about fan noise and temps, all you need to do is look at the latest high-end graphics cards. They'll put to shame what you think is noisy. Those 4070s, 4090s, 3090s, those things, when you're pushing on them, are way louder than any CPU fan I've ever heard. So here's our temps. We're currently running in the 60 degrees Celsius range. The hottest we've ever hit was only 82. We're far away from a thermal throttle. Garfield Rupe with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Garfield. Let me take a look over here while we're waiting. And let me just type into Google, what is the thermal throttle temp of, what did I say this was, a 13700H? Is that what it was? 100 degrees Celsius is where it will throttle, and we're 18 degrees Celsius below that. So we're not seeing any thermal throttling happening. 100 degrees Celsius. Oh, that's the 13700K. That's not the 13700H. H is a different chip. It's a notebook chip. Typically, it's somewhere, with Intel, it's typically right close to 100 degrees Celsius. I've seen it at 95 on some chips. But if we're not hitting those temps, then we're not thermal throttling. Robert says hello from Toronto. Hey, Robert, welcome in. We'll go ahead and let this test complete just to see, once again, when we're looking over on this list, this row is our current temp. This is our minimum, the coolest since the software started running. This is the maximum it's recorded since we started the software. And then this is, of course, our average, which we don't care about our average. We're really focused on what our maximum is and what our current is. And depending on what is being asked of the CPU, it's sort of like me asking you to walk around the block, and then I ask you to walk around the block while carrying a backpack, and then I ask you to walk around the block while pulling a wagon and carrying a backpack and doing it barefoot. You're going to come back more exhausted depending on how much effort you have to put into whatever task you've been assigned. And that's exactly what a CPU is doing here. Is it's putting in more effort when more effort is asked. So you will see the variation of the amount of voltage it's consuming, the frequency it's using, and the temperatures that it's generating, and then our fan is responding accordingly. And you often don't need to know what your temps are. You can tell from how it sounds. If your fans are running really loud and that's unusual, then your system is getting unusually warm for some reason. John A. contributes $9.99 in Super Chat. He says, happy Thursday, everyone. Hey, thank you, John. Bill wants to know, do most computers run Celsius and not Fahrenheit? Or is it the same thing? Here in America, we like to use Fahrenheit. Pretty much everywhere else in the world, they like Celsius. Because software is developed all over the world, the default, because America is small compared to the rest of the world, the default is typically Celsius. But within the software, you can often change how you want it to read out. But because my videos are seen worldwide, I would rather accommodate the majority than the minority. Because I have more worldwide viewers than I have USA viewers, I'm going to do everything in Celsius because that's typically the way it's done in the industry. But if I wanted to know the temperature in Fahrenheit, typically within the software itself, the option is there to change that to Fahrenheit if we want that. It just wouldn't be very beneficial to 3/4 of the world to sit there and talk about Fahrenheit. They would have to do the translation to Celsius or centigrade, depending on how old you are. And it's pretty universal when we talk about temps that we talk about it in Celsius. Yeah, the world's getting smaller, and so, you know, if you're someone who's older and you lived in generations where it was pretty much what was going on in your own neighborhood, you may have never dealt with Celsius in your life. But with the internet bringing everybody together, and it makes it so easy for people to communicate with each other now, it helps to sort of break the bubble we live in and realize in some cases, we're the minority in how we translate things, and in other cases, not so much. It's sort of like the English language isn't the most spoken language. And, you know, if you think about like the most common name for a person, it isn't Joe or David, it's Mohammed. I had no idea growing up. That information really wasn't part of the culture I grew up in, and that information wasn't really made available to me because it was outside of the world I was living in. So in the world of computers, it is generally accepted that when we talk about temps, we talk about it in Celsius. But I appreciate the question. Fair question. Once again, this unit has never exceeded 82 degrees Celsius throughout this entire testing process, and I'm pretty impressed by that. And of course, the test isn't over yet. There's still an opportunity for it to thermal throttle, but I don't think it's going to. Kashumi says, greetings from the other side of the world. I'm watching the stream while cooking pancakes for breakfast. Where is the other side of the world? Kashumi, where are you located? What country? Elko says, according to Intel, the 13700H CPU thermal junction is also at 100 degrees Celsius. So yeah, we're not going to see thermal throttle until that temperature is closer, if not exceeding 100 degrees. So you might start to see it at 99 or 98, depending on how delayed the information is on the screen. But yeah, we're far, far from that. It's running, I'm telling you, I think I have a new favorite computer here, seriously. I really, really like this little computer. What's not to like? It's a great price, easy to get into, super fast, super quiet, well equipped, super small, lots of I/O. Hey, camera girl, want to get the camera?
Sure.
Don't pay attention to the fact that the close-up camera cable is plugged into the overhead. We certainly didn't use that without you.
Uh-huh.
Here, let me give this to you, and you can plug this in here. All right. Now we can have better close-ups.
Some of us have a real job.
You do? Working for me? All right, let me turn off, let's see, what do I want to do? I want to go to the close-up camera. So let's switch to the close-up camera. Which button is that? This button here. All right, come on over. Now, point down there.
Oh, that's neat.
Check this out, because you weren't here to see this.
Ooh.
See the little fingers?
Love it. Oh, that's cool. Awesome.
Look inside.
Wow.
We have an actively cooled NVMe heatsink. See the little fan?
Yeah.
There's our Wi-Fi. There's our RAM. Notice what kind of RAM it's in there?
Crucial.
What is it? DDR what? Very bottom of the module.
DDR5.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Wow.
How easy is that? And look at the back.
That is cool.
Look at the back. Look how many I got. Two
Oh my-
2.5 gig LANs.
Wow.
I got two USB 4s that are Type C. I got two USB 3.2s. And look at this. This power brick takes a regular PC power cable, not one of those Mickey Mouse cables.
Nice.
And do you hear it?
I do not. That is super neat.
That is a 13700
Wow.
processor.
Oh, that's much better in person.
And then you see here on the lid, see how there's these pieces? You can put a 2.5-inch drive in there, and then there's these holes to secure the drive with the included screws.
Nice.
So your 2.5-inch drive goes right to the bottom of the lid, and then you don't need any tools. You just
Yeah,
put
but
that right
I
back
love the way
on.
that opens. That is super cool.
And look at the color of it.
I know, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
It's
That's awesome.
DeLorean color.
That is cool. That is super
And
cool.
we're the first ones to get a unit to review.
Oh, I love it.
So
That's
this is a
awesome.
YouTube exclusive. I'm super excited that Minisforum has given us this opportunity. And it's not like it's a generic everyday mini PC. This one, you know, is very uncommon in all those ways I've just shown. And
Open
it
the lid
performs.
again.
Open it again.
Open it again.
You want to try? I got to do the other side.
Love it. Oh, God, that's so handy. Wow.
It's neat, right?
That is super cool.
Corners. There you go.
Nice.
Did all that one-handed.
One-handed. I love it.
All right,
That's awesome.
let me go back over to camera one. Thank you for
All
that.
right. You're welcome. That was cool.
And
That is nice. That's a keeper.
there we go.
Clear?
Yeah, you're clear. Thank you. Sarge Tech says, Minisforum believes in Carrie, as do we. Well, that's flattering. Did this finish? Or is it still running? Still running. We did.
That's a keeper.
Did we get up to 84? No, it still hasn't crossed over 82.
That's a keeper.
Yeah, and I'm running Cinebench R23 on it, and the hottest it's ever gotten is 82C. So it doesn't thermal throttle till 100.
Love that lid. It's absolutely fantastic.
Ryan contributes $2.20 Canadian, says, nice nails, camera girl. Hello, Carrie and chat.
Thank you.
Hey, Ryan, thank you. Northwest Media says, hello from the Lewis and Clark Bridge, Columbia River on the Washington State side. Welcome in, Northwest Media.
Cool.
It's an unusual YouTube name, Northwest Media. Wonder what they do. Media in the Northwest?
You never know.
Hmm. Okay, now it looks like the test is over. Let me walk up to the screen. Those buttons say start now, correct? Yeah, so our test is done. There's our final scores. And now I can close out Cinebench again. Okay. And we can go back full screen to camera one. All right, guys. Josh Kinder says, hello, camera girl.
Hi. Nice to see everybody.
What am I, chopped liver? No, some people like chopped liver.
You won't catch me eating that.
Thomas says, great show as always. Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for being here and joining us as well. Thanks, of course, to folks at Minisforum. What a generous opportunity they've given me here, and I'm just super excited. I expect there'll be some other YouTube channels that will follow up with some more thorough reviews, specifically giving some examples of gaming and what kind of frames per second you can expect. My thing isn't about gaming. If I had more time, I'd certainly play more games. However, like I said earlier, my favorite game is helping solve whatever customer problems my customers are having, and how much I can get done to help people, and how successful my business can be. So if a time comes where I'll have some time, I know my friend Ron was in the chat earlier, was it yesterday, saying he wishes he could get me like on Unreal Tournament so we can play like we used to. Maybe someday, that'd be fun. Now, as for tomorrow's video, like I said, this really felt like it should be a Friday video. This is a very special mini PC, I think worthy of a Friday video. I just couldn't contain my excitement. So tomorrow, maybe we'll bring the hot dog build back up. Boy, talk about swinging from one direction to the other. I've got the Thermaltake 240 millimeter liquid cooler in that needs to be installed. And that hot dog build isn't going to be a hot dog build anymore. It's going to be a very respectable build when we're done with it. I've got that bizarre cube case on order. And so I talked to Mitch the other day, and he'll join me to build in that cube case. But it's shipping from China, and I don't think it'll get here to the end of the month or the beginning of next month. And I hope it arrives without damage. But it'll be what it'll be, and it'll be filmed live. So that should be interesting. Ryan says, why is the hot dog build called a hot dog build? Because hot dogs are very inexpensive and they often look delicious. But if you actually see how they're made and what they're made of, you likely will never want to eat another one again at any price. So a hot dog build is generally made of very cheap components that aren't reliable. It's all show and no go. And it's often inexpensive, but it looks expensive. Therefore, it's a hot dog. Trust me, you don't want to see how it's made.
It's a gourmet hot dog.
Well, we're turning it into a gourmet hot dog. Actually, no, we're turning it into a gourmet meal. It started as a hot dog, but by the time we're done fixing it to make it acceptable, it'll cost more than twice as much, and it'll essentially look the same, but its performance will be much, much higher, and its reliability, which it wasn't reliable before, will be completely stable. But you get what you pay for, you know. You're not exactly getting high quality, nutritious meat in a hot dog. And you're also generally not paying a lot of money for a hot dog. It's a hot dog. Michael Dane says, here's the dad joke of the week. What kind of dogs do programmers have? Computer labs. Charlie wants to know, will Diablo 4 play on this well? I have no idea. I've never played Diablo 1, 2, 3, or 4. No clue. There are other YouTube channels that will likely test the gaming merits of a system, but that's not what I do here.
I would be happy to try that.
You would be?
I played Diablo.
Is that a demanding game?
It depends on what version, but yeah.
No idea. Patrick says, every time Carrie does a build or a repair, I get the itch to build another PC I don't need. Yeah, I don't have that problem here at all. Don't look around. Computers everywhere. Sarge Tech says from a hot dog to filet mignon. Yeah, that's likely, I think, what I'm going to do tomorrow. And really, it should be a pretty easy video. Just I've already got the piece of junk cooler off of it. The case turns out, it was purchased as a hot dog because the case was all about show. And turns out the case actually is pretty well made. So that surprised me. But the cooler is junk, just like I thought it would be on the hot dog build. And the motherboard combo unit we got from AliExpress is complete garbage. So at the end of the day, I just spent more money. I didn't save money, I spent more because I had to go and buy another motherboard, buy another CPU, buy another cooler. So I spent more than if I would have just built it right from the get-go. But I did that with the intention of sharing the lesson with you so you wouldn't have to learn that way. It's a very expensive school to learn that way. Or that you're willing to accept the lack of reliability, the lack of performance, and you're happy to have saved money and deal with the inconsistency of performance and stability. But at least you've got your expectations in the right place. If that's a decision you make, you shouldn't be disappointed because you know exactly what to expect. Which, again, adds more value to the mini PCs because, quite frankly, I've got more tied into the hot dog build than what this would cost me to have it outfitted with a similar level of RAM and solid state storage. And it's a lot smaller, be a lot cheaper for me to ship it. I wouldn't have to worry about things breaking like glass panels. I don't have to worry about cable management, none of that. So yeah, I am a huge fan of mini PCs. Michael Dane says, I am a beta tester for Blizzard software and Diablo 4 should play on that machine. Well, I appreciate the feedback, Michael. Any other technical questions I can answer for you? Anything specific about the mini PC you're curious about? I'll do my best to provide an answer. Otherwise, we'll wrap up today's show. We've just crossed over the 2-hour mark, and I do like to keep these, as close to about 2 hours as I can get them. Sometimes we go 3 hours or sometimes 4 hours. But I think we've pretty well covered the basis, unless, it's up to you guys. I'll stick around as long as you have questions. I'm going to just grab a cold Gatorade. And in the meantime, if you've asked a question and I haven't answered, it's likely because it wasn't a technical question, like if you're asking me personal stuff, or I just didn't see your question and you're welcome to post it again. So I tried this energy drink called Prime. I thought this would be a good way for me to get my caffeine. Said it was lemon lime, like the Gatorade. Took one sip of it. It is like licking the floor of a sugar factory, even though it doesn't have any sugar. So now the aftertaste is that diet aftertaste. Oh,
I didn't think it tasted
nasty.
that bad.
Have you tried this?
I did.
The lemon lime.
It was sitting right there.
And
yeah.
you tried it?
Yeah.
Well, here, you can have it. That is disgusting.
Not disgusting.
I'll stick
Okay.
with my Gatorade and, I don't know, a
like
caffeine pill. Well, then I won't dump it down the sink. Ryan says his company just upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10 finally. Their new software wouldn't work on Windows 7. Yeah, usually takes something like that to make it happen. John English says energy drinks are bad for you. And? What
They're not that bad.
what are you going to die of? Aren't you going to feel silly? You die of nothing. If I didn't eat or drink things that were bad for me, I would have no reason to get out of bed in the morning.
You're a walking potato.
Yeah, I'm a walking potato chip. It's got to be loaded with preservatives and crunchy. Yeah. So, yeah, my physical health may not be that ideal, but my mental health is great. If you're somebody chasing after your physical health, I wonder what state the mental health is in as a result. To each their own. Would you like a hot dog? Side of Doritos?
As a vegan, I'll have to pass.
They have vegan hot dogs. They're made of hot dog plants. Kashumi says, in relation to my previous post, I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia. There's an idiom here that says, where there is money, there is goods, which translates to cheaping out on components is not worth it sometimes. That's a universal truth for sure. But welcome in. I think you're the only viewer I've ever had from Jakarta, so that's awesome. Essential Working Too Hard says anything and everything you put in your mouth is bad for you. That sounds about right. I think the cure for everything is to stop breathing. I think oxygen's causing all our problems. I'm going to check the email one more time here. $5 via PayPal from William Ward. Hey, William, thank you for supporting the channel. Right on. As a reminder, I do videos live every Friday at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. Phoenix time is the same as Pacific time half of the year. So right now, California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, I think that's right. I think we're all on Pacific time. But in the fall, the people on Pacific time, they wind their clock back an hour. They fall back an hour. Arizona never moves our clock one way or the other. So in the fall, when daylight saving time hits, we become an hour ahead of Pacific time. So you'll hear, sometimes depending on how old of a video you're watching or what time of year, you'll hear me say, my show starts at 1 o'clock Pacific time, or you might hear me say, my show starts at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Those are both accurate depending on the time of year. But from my perspective here in Phoenix, it's always 1 p.m. all year round. And when Pacific time rolls back an hour, so does Eastern time. So right now, when I do a show at 1 o'clock, that is also 1 o'clock Pacific time. And you add 3 hours for Eastern time, so that's 4 p.m. Eastern. So 1 o'clock at California time is 4 o'clock New York time. When daylight saving hits in the fall, then it becomes noon California time and 3 p.m. New York time. But it's always the same time for me. It is always 1 o'clock every Friday. So you don't need the notifications on. You can set a calendar reminder to remind yourself Carrie is live every Friday at 1 o'clock, and depending on what time zone you're in, do the math to figure out what that is in your time zone. And of course, do know that if you're at a place that honors daylight saving time, that you know that that changes as a result, because my time's not changing. Bill wants to know if I have a mini fridge at Studio B. I do not, no. Would you mind checking the front door? I think Amazon just dropped off a package. Stop eating. Michael Shaw says hello. Hey, Michael, it's been a while. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Dustin Fuller saying good night. Yeah, we're just going to wrap things up here. Just looking if you have any other technical questions for me. Be happy to try to provide an answer for you. Those should be from Amazon. Those should be your sugar-free syrups to pour on Hawaiian crushed ice.
Oh.
So you can open those and see what flavors. Could that be my cube case? No, that cube case, I guarantee that cube case won't be here before the 20th. And if I get it that soon, I'll be surprised. Are there 3 of them or just 2?
Right now it's just one. I'm gonna put up the other one. Ooh.
What flavors you got?
Black cherry and tiger's blood.
Black cherry and tiger's blood, sugar-free snow cone syrup. You pour that over snow cone.
Love it.
All right.
Thank you.
Carrie, what computer inventory do you recommend a new technician keep in stock? Well, it depends on what you're fixing and servicing in your area. So if you're getting a lot of customers calling with certain brands, like system integrator brands like Dell or HP, or if you're getting people with laptops, it sort of depends on what type of work you're doing. So whatever type of work you're doing most often, those will be the spare parts you want to keep. Now there are some parts that are just good to have around, like a good spare power supply. They're relatively inexpensive, they don't depreciate. The problem if you're buying CPUs or RAM or storage is you will likely lose money on it, because the longer you hold on to it, the less it's worth, because the prices keep falling. I mean, look how much solid state drives are today compared to what they were this time last year. So the longer you hold on to parts like that, the more it costs you. So it's really up to you what you want to have as parts. But there are certain safe things, such as good toolkits, such as a power supply. Yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're working on most frequently, what type of system, and from that you determine if that would be useful to you to have spare parts for systems like that you see most often. It'll be different for everybody. Sarge Tech says, yum, shaved ice syrup. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you put it on the shaved ice. Not just drinking it straight out of the bottle.
Right.
Andy Kane says he's booking his A+ exam for the end of the month. All right, well, go get them. Let us know how you do. Hopefully you'll pass that the first time around. So I still have a couple other mini PCs that need to be reviewed. I've got one called from a company called BMax. I've got 2 more from B-Link. One is the latest version of their budget, sub $200 mini PC. And then I think there's another mid-range from B-Link. Oh, I have another computer that I purchased from Minisforum that I'm expecting to arrive any day. Let me show you what that one looks like. Let's go to the Minisforum website. Wait till you see this. Now this, let's go to shop. It's Intel based. It's called the NAD9. Once again, it doesn't look like any other mini PC. It's got a very unique design. It's also a little bit larger than the mini PC I'm showing you today. And the bare bones unit is $479, which is exactly what I paid for it. And what you get, check this out. So, today's unit is in the Venus series. This is in the Neptune series. This is an Intel Core i9-12900H. It is 14 cores, 20 threads. Now, I've ordered the bare bones unit, so I will put my own RAM and my own solid state drive in it, and I will install Windows 10 or 11, whatever I'm in the mood to put on it. If you order it with RAM and a solid state drive, then it will also include Windows 11 Pro installed. But I wanted to go the cheaper, at $479. I said that's that's a really good price for that much power. It's got PCIe Gen 4 that it supports. It's got the ability to have two 2.5-inch drives in it. It's DDR4, not DDR5, so that memory is a bit cheaper. It'll run up to 5 gigahertz, so very similar to the processor we're testing today, the 13700H. And when that arrives, I will put the RAM and the storage and install Windows Live on video. The only difference is that I'm paying for that one, and today's video and yesterday's video, Minisforum provided the machine. But Minisforum did not have any review units of the NAD 9 available till next month, and I didn't want to wait that long, so I just bought it. And so that I'm super excited about as well. Lots of good I/O on that one. And again, it is physically larger than the unit we're looking at today. And there are already several YouTube review videos if you want to search YouTube for what other content creators have demonstrated with this unit. But I thought that was a really great deal at $479 for the bare bones, $479. So I'm looking forward to that arriving, and hopefully that'll be a video I do next week. I hope. I'm excited to get that one. But yeah, I'm super impressed with this one. Gil Garcia says, what are you going to do with all of the mini PCs you've been revealing? Are you going to give them away someday? Some people have already received some. Others are on long-term testing. And some people, I've made an offer to send them the unit under the promise that they're going to report back to me under a long-term review of what it's like to live with day to day. And the problem is I can't make them honor their agreement. So if I never hear from them again, I don't get the updated review. So I don't have anything set in stone with regards to where the remaining PCs are going to go. But as opportunities avail themselves to people that are going to benefit from receiving those, and in exchange are going to do a long-term review for me of what it's like to live with day to day. You know, I love to hear from the end users with regards to what do you think of the PC now that you have it, now that you're relying on it every day? What are you finding to be any shortcomings, or what are you finding to be benefits that no reviewers are talking about? Because when you're hearing from somebody who's relying on it day to day, I think it's much more useful information because it's very unique of what their value system is, what they think is good or what they think is bad, as opposed to what a professional thinks. So likely some of the machines will go out to people like that. And like I said, in the past, I have sent items to people who agreed to follow up, and then they never followed up. So obviously I'll never send them anything again. But I am hopeful that the individuals who have received some of these mini PCs who agreed that they will report back to me from time to time about any issues that come up or just periodic updates with regards to how it's been, you know, they stay on the roster for potentially receiving something else that needs a long-term review as well. So people kind of set themselves up, if you will, for their own success. But yes, it's going to be a problem if mini PCs keep coming in. I'm going to run out of places to put them. But about 6 of them have been given away so far. Gil Garcia says, I would give you a long-term review. If you can send me one, I'll keep my word. I've been a member of your channel since you started doing this. No, I appreciate that, Gil, and I bet out of 380,000 subscribers, 360,000 would also say the same thing. However, there are certain things I'm looking for, criteria, which you may or may not meet. I don't know yet, and I'm not making that offer. I'm answering your question. So we'll see if that opportunity comes along, and if you meet the criteria that I'm looking for, yeah, that's certainly a possibility. Absolutely. We also have about somewhere between 20 and 30 of the little HP 1-liter machines to give away to veterans and people in need. And I want to get back to giving away those giveaways next week as well. Trying to give away about 2 to 3, at least 2 per week, because that's 10 weeks worth of giveaway there. And that's my primary concern, more so than these. And as I mentioned, some of these I'm doing a long-term review of myself. But eventually I will have the problem if the mini PCs, if they keep innovating and keep coming out with new models as frequently as they are, yeah, then a giveaway for those would happen sooner. But I don't know that this is an ongoing thing or if we're just seeing a spike and then it will just slow down. Time will tell. All right, I think that'll wrap it up for me for today. I want to thank, once again, Phil over at Minisforum for sending me these units. My excitement is genuine. I am absolutely tickled at just what a bargain this is, how powerful it is, all the I/O, how easy it is to get into. There's not much I don't like on this particular machine. And this is one I intend to use as a long-term review myself. I really like it. And I'll be very interested in how it compares with Minisforum's NAD9 when that arrives. These are not available yet, but you can order them now. The links for both yesterday's video, the UM690XT, as well as the Minisforum NPB7, you can order them now. They will ship at the end of the month if you want to be one of the first to have them. And thank you guys for hanging out with me. Thank you for the support. Thank you for your participation in the video, in the chat room. Thanks again to the contributions that came in from William Ward and from David Coleman and from Mark Gaines, as always. Thank you so much. Thank you to our long-term supporters like Peter Laycock and John Wilson, and to the Super Chat contributors during today's video, and that's Ryan, John A., Garfield Rupe, Madi Yoel, Mats Olaf Rickardson, I should say, Roy Starman, and I see a contribution that I guess I missed earlier from Wamlazo Becca, which is 100 KES. I don't think I've ever heard of KES before. What currency is that? Oh, it's Kenyan shillings. That's a new one. So 100 Kenyan shillings is about 73 cents US. And you know what? That's 73 more cents than most viewers ever give. So I thank you so much for the contribution, and I'm sorry that I didn't see that until now. That's really cool. I'm getting a worldwide lesson in currency and foreign exchange by having the YouTube channel. Wow, that was really neat. Scott Hallinan says, is the mini PC replacing the bulky desktop PC? I guess that's up to the individual owners to decide for themselves. Luke Greenia says, I, for one, can personally vouch for Kerry's word. I've been on the receiving end of his generosity. Yeah, but you've also, Luke, you've also given back, right? So when I'm reaching out to people to giveaways where it's not a public video, I'm sending a private email, it's usually to people that are supporting the channel. If there's somebody that's contributing, you know, $5 or $10 or $20 over a series of a couple of months per show, that adds up. And those are the first people I go to because they've gone over and above for me when I would make them the offer to go over and above for them. And I'm not saying that's a requirement, I'm just telling you that there are some giveaways I do that are, I don't make a video, I don't toot my own horn. It's just a private exchange for me to show my appreciation to the viewers who go above and beyond and help support the channel financially. Because without those viewers, half of this content would not be able to be made because I don't have the budget without them to purchase the parts. So like that NAD 9, how do you think I was able to afford that? So just bear that in mind. And if there's anything that I can do for my members, of course, the members have my email address. I hope you do. I'll do whatever I can to help my members individually because they go out of their way to give something back. So I want to give something back to them. And you just have to tell me what it is. And as long as it's something I'm capable of doing, I'm do whatever I can to return the favor. In the meantime, like I said, the regular giveaways, there's no prerequisites on those regular giveaways. These are just things you wouldn't know about. It's just sort of what happens as I get to know certain viewers when they contribute, and then I say thank you, and then we start to talk, and one thing leads to another, and they might get something from me. It could be a copy of Windows or Office or, I don't know, something they saw me review. That does happen, absolutely. So sort of a get what you give kind of a thing there. And that's the reasoning behind it. And then again, like I said, when I have, when these mini PCs become an issue, we're storing them, all right, you know, I know I'm not gonna need them, then a traditional type of giveaway where it's open to everybody in the US will likely happen, and so everybody has a fair shot. So. VR wants to know if I've ever thought about reacting to my older videos. It'd be cool seeing what you would do differently today with the builds from back then. Yeah, I've thought about it, but I don't have time. I mean, with all the work I've got piled up, I suppose if there ever gets to be a time where I have nothing to do, that would make for some very interesting content. Starshine says, thanks for the stream. And Mara might see chat peeps. Charlie Beamer says, thanks for the live show. It was awesome to take part with everybody. Right on. Andy Kane says, we can't thank you enough. Marsman says, excellent review, Carrie. Thank you, Marsman. Vega Man says, see you later. Kashumi says, thanks for the stream. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Icarus just became a supporter. Or, yeah, or is a first month supporter. Thank you so much for continuing your membership to the Tech Club. I appreciate you. All right, guys. Thank you, camera girl.
You're welcome.
Better late than never. I'll see you all tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific time. The subject, I'm not sure. I'm leaning towards finishing up the hot dog build, but it could change between now and then. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.